What makes a great tank film truly unforgettable? Is it the roar of steel across a frozen field or the quiet panic inside a cramped turret when the world rattles outside? In the middle of these stories sits something deeper, the human heart trying to stay steady while the ground shakes. And as we move through this list, you'll notice something surprising. A few of these films don't just show tanks, they show truth wrapped in iron. Number 12. Sahara 1943. Sahara opens with a simple image, a lone tank crawling through a desert that looks large enough to swallow hope. Humphrey Bogart leads a tired crew across the Libyan sands, and from the first scene you feel the heat pressing down on every choice they make. This is not a polished story, it is a survival tale baked in sand, sweat, and stubborn pride. What makes Sahara stand out is how grounded it feels, especially for a film made during the real conflict it portrays. The tank, an M3 Lee named Lulu Bell, becomes a character of its own. It rattles, overheats, and groans under the sun, just like the men inside it. Their mission is simple: stay alive long enough to hold back an enemy patrol until help arrives. The desert becomes the true adversary, draining water, energy, and morale with every mile. Behind the scenes, the production team shot in scorching American deserts, pushing cast and crew through real heat. That effort shows. You can almost feel the grit sticking to your skin as Bogart's crew digs trenches and makes impossible choices. Sahara succeeds because it refuses to glamorize anything. It shows that sometimes the scariest battlefield is a place with no shade and no second chances. A classic that still hits with surprising power. Number 11. The Tanks Are Coming 1951. The Tanks Are Coming begins with a swagger, a young tank commander who believes he already knows everything worth knowing about the battlefield. But the story quickly shifts into something deeper. This film was made when memories of the real conflict were still fresh, and you can feel that weight in every frame. Real Sherman tanks rumble across the screen, filmed with the help of the United States Army, giving the movie an authenticity you cannot fake. What makes this film special is its focus on growth. The lead character learns that steel alone does not win anything. It is the people sweating inside that cramped machine who carry the story forward. The movie blends training sequences, armored advances, and the friction between rookies and veterans. Every time the crew enters their Sherman, the tension rises because the film makes the inside feel tight, loud, and unpredictable. The production was a wrestling match between Hollywood style and military accuracy. Advisors insisted on proper procedures. Directors insisted on emotional storytelling. That tug of war created a film that feels both educational and dramatic. And while it may not have the explosive flair of modern blockbusters, it carries a charm of honesty. The Tanks Are Coming remains a salute to early armored cinema, a reminder of how crews once learned courage inside steel walls. Number 10. Kelly's Heroes, 1970. Kelly's Heroes does something unusual. It tosses humor, grit, and tank combat into the same pot and somehow makes it work. The film follows a group of worn-down soldiers who discover a hidden stash of gold behind enemy lines. The solution, according to them, is simple. Take a few Sherman tanks, drive deep into dangerous territory, and claim the treasure while everyone else focuses on the wider conflict. It is wild, it is playful, and it has more realism than people expect. The tank scenes use real armored vehicles, not models or digital tricks. When those Shermans rumble down narrow roads or crash through obstacles, the weight feels real because it was real. Clint Eastwood plays the calm center of the storm, while Donald Sutherland brings a laid-back swagger that somehow fits perfectly into a war film that refuses to play by traditional rules. Behind the camera, chaos ran nearly as hot as the engines. Performers argued over tone, explosions went off closer than expected, and military advisors shook their heads at the irreverent script. Yet that tension created something fresh. Kelly's Heroes captures a truth many veterans mention. Even in the middle of danger, humans cling to humor, friendship, and the strange pursuit of hope. The film is part heist, part war story, and part rebellion. It is messy, bold, and unforgettable. Number 9. The Bridge at Remagen, 1969. The Bridge at Remagen opens with urgency. The final days of the conflict are collapsing into confusion, and both sides know that one crossing over the Rhine could shift everything. The film wastes no time. Tanks roar across muddy roads, dust fills the air, and orders fly faster than anyone can process. This is not a tale of victory. It is a tale of exhaustion where every person on screen looks one step away from giving in. What sets this movie apart is its raw production history. Filming started in Czechoslovakia, but when unrest swept the streets, the crew suddenly found themselves surrounded by real armored vehicles. They fled the country with their footage and finished the shoot in Italy. That sense of chaos bled directly into the final film. The battles feel loose, frantic, and dangerously close to spiraling out of control. The tank scenes use real machines charging across bridges built to collapse under controlled explosions. 2 extras were hurt during filming, reminding everyone involved just how dangerous practical stunts can be. Yet the result is stunning. The bridge at Remagen avoids simple heroics and instead focuses on weary soldiers who push forward because turning back is no longer possible. This movie stands tall because it captures the truth of late war combat, confusion, grit, and the stubborn will to finish what was started. Number 8. Patton, 1970. Patton does not just show tanks, it shows the mind of a man who believed he was born to command them. George C. Scott steps into the role with such force that the opening monologue alone became a legend. But beyond the speeches, the film delivers some of the most impressive large-scale armored scenes ever shot. Entire divisions of tanks roll across the Spanish desert, filmed with real soldiers and real machinery arranged in sweeping formations. The brilliance of Patton lies in how it balances spectacle with personality. The film captures a commander who is brilliant and flawed, confident yet restless, always pushing forward even when everyone else wants to slow down. The tank battles echo that energy. Engines growl, dust rises in thick clouds, and the battlefield stretches far into the horizon. Behind the scenes, tensions simmered. The Pentagon kept its distance because the film refused to soften Patton's rough edges. Meanwhile, director Franklin Schaffner fought hard to keep the character complex and not turn him into a simple symbol of triumph. That stubborn commitment to honesty makes the movie unforgettable. Patton remains essential for anyone who wants to see how armor shaped strategies and personalities during the conflict. It is bold, loud, thoughtful, and impossible to forget. A towering entry in the history of war cinema. Number 7. Stalingrad, 1993. Stalingrad begins with sunlit confidence. German troops march across open fields, laughing, joking, and believing they understand the shape of the conflict ahead. Then winter hits. The city closes in, and the entire world shrinks into a maze of shattered walls and drifting snow. Tanks grind forward like ancient beasts, their engines coughing in the cold, their treads slipping on frozen rubble. Every scene feels heavy, as if the cold itself is weighing down the camera. What makes Stalingrad unforgettable is how it strips away any illusion of control. The crew behind the film shot in brutal conditions, forcing actors into real snowstorms with layers of ice forming on their uniforms. The tanks often stalled, just as they did in real life, turning every advance into a struggle between machinery and weather. That realism gives the film a slow, crushing rhythm that mirrors the true exhaustion of the Eastern Front. The tank scenes are not loud displays of power. They are slow, grinding, almost desperate. Each movement feels like a risk. Every corner could hide disaster, and the temperature constantly threatens to stop both man and machine. The film refuses to offer comforting answers. Instead, it shows the slow unraveling of human spirit in a landscape that feels colder than steel. Stalingrad is tough, bleak, and brutally honest. Number 6. Cross of Iron, 1977. Cross of Iron opens with chaos already in motion. The Eastern Front is a place where mud swallows boots, gears jam at the worst possible moment, and the sound of engines mixes with the distant rumble of approaching tanks. Sam Peckinpah, known for capturing tension with unfiltered force, brings that same approach here. His soldiers are worn down, running low on everything except stubborn willpower, And the tanks in this film feel as unpredictable as the terrain itself. The production used real armored vehicles and real explosions, shot in rough landscapes that refused to cooperate. Mud splattered camera lenses, actors stumbled through debris, and sudden mechanical failures forced improvisation. Instead of ruining the film, all that grit made it feel more alive. The tank battles are jagged, messy, and frightening because they look like something no one fully prepared for. At the center is a rivalry between a hardened sergeant and an officer seeking glory. Their conflict mirrors the wider collapse happening around them. When tanks enter the field, they do not appear as symbols of power. They appear as reminders that survival is never guaranteed. Peckinpah wanted realism, and he captured it with bruising honesty. Cross of Iron remains a favorite among armored history fans because it shows a truth many films avoid. Courage inside a tank can look a lot like exhaustion. Number 5. T-34, 2018. 34 hits the screen with pure motion. From the first chase sequence, you feel the excitement of a crew who refuse to give up even when the odds stack sky high against them. This film mixes grounded tank detail with fresh, modern style. Real restored vehicles were used during filming, which gives every ricochet, every turret turn, every sprint across the battlefield a tactile, physical presence. The story follows a young Soviet officer who, after being captured, later plots an escape using the very machine designed to contain him. What follows is a wild dash across dangerous territory, blending real tactics with a cinematic rhythm that keeps viewers glued to the action. Slow-motion shots highlight the beauty and danger of tank movement, making each moment feel both artistic and intense. Behind the scenes, the production team fought to keep the film balanced. Some advisors pushed for pure realism, others wanted a more stylized adventure. The final result is a rare mix of both. There is genuine respect for the machinery, but also a sense of fun that newer audiences appreciate. T-34 became a breakout hit in its home country and quickly gained international attention. It delivers spectacle without losing heart, proving that even decades after the real conflict, tank stories still spark imagination. Number 4. White Tiger, 2012. White Tiger does not behave like a typical tank film. It opens with a survivor barely able to speak, pulled from the burnt remains of a destroyed armored crew compartment. From that eerie opening, the film leans into mystery. A nearly silent Soviet tanker believes a ghostly German tank prowls the battlefield, appearing through smoke only to vanish again. The White Tiger is a legend, a whisper, and a symbol of fears soldiers rarely admit out loud. What makes this film compelling is its commitment to atmosphere. Every tank scene is shot with slow, careful movement, focusing on tension more than noise. The crew built replicas of period-correct tanks and relied on practical effects, making the duels feel heavy and grounded. When engines roar, the sound echoes across empty fields like a warning. White Tiger explores the psychological side of armored combat. The protagonist becomes obsessed with the idea that the conflict itself has taken physical form in the shape of this impossible enemy. Whether the creature is real or imagined is left for the viewer to ponder. The film ends with more questions than answers, and that mystery has made it a talking point for years. This movie stands apart because it does not just show machinery. It shows the lingering fears that can follow anyone who has lived through chaos. A haunting, unforgettable entry in tank cinema. Number 3. The Beast, 1988. The Beast is not set during the same conflict as the rest of this list, but its depiction of life inside a tank is so raw and accurate that fans of armored history often group it with the finest examples. The movie follows a crew whose loyalties fracture as they navigate harsh terrain and pressure from every side. Though it is centered on a different era, its emotional truth matches the tone of the greatest tank stories ever told. Inside the metal shell of their machine, the crew argue, doubt, and wrestle with choices that test their sense of right and wrong. The tank itself becomes a cage, trapping the characters as much as it protects them. Real armored vehicles were used, and the cramped filming conditions forced performers to experience the discomfort and noise firsthand. The film gained a quiet reputation among military fans for its honesty. It does not rely on spectacle. Instead, it shows how fear and leadership collide inside a cramped steel room. The landscapes are wide and empty, but the tension inside the tank always feels tight enough to snap. The beast remains a powerful study of pressure, decision-making, and the weight of command. Even though it stands slightly outside the timeline of the other films, its commitment to authenticity earns it a high spot on this list. Number 2. Fury. 2014. Fury storms onto the screen with a simple promise. This is what it felt like to sit inside a tank at the end of the conflict when nerves were thin, supplies were low, and every mile forward felt like a gamble with fate. The film follows a Sherman crew led by a hardened commander played with sharp intensity by Brad Pitt. From the opening scene, you can feel the weight of exhaustion clinging to every crew member. They look worn, bruised by months of nonstop fighting, but still determined to push ahead. What makes Fury remarkable is the level of detail. The production used real tanks, including the last working Tiger tank in the world. The tight interior was rebuilt to scale, forcing actors to experience the same cramped pressure real crews felt. The film's dust, smoke, and metallic clatter were created through practical effects whenever possible. Nothing feels staged. Everything looks like it was dragged straight from the mud of 1945. The story never pretends that courage comes easy. The new recruit struggles to adjust. The veterans show cracks beneath their tough expressions, and the tank itself seems to groan in frustration whenever the journey gets rough. Fury shows the cost of survival without drifting into hopelessness. Instead, it finds strength in loyalty, grit, and the stubborn refusal to stop moving. Number 1. The Battle for Neretva, 1969. The Battle for Neretva takes the top spot because it delivers something few films ever achieve. Truly massive practical tank action filmed on a scale that modern productions can only dream of. This Yugoslav epic gathered real soldiers, real armor, and real landscapes to recreate one of the most dramatic operations of the conflict. The result is a thunderous, sweeping film that still leaves viewers stunned more than 50 years later. One of its most famous moments involves a bridge being blown up for real. Not a model, not a digital trick, a real demolition supervised by engineers and filmed with multiple cameras. Thousands of extras took part in the shoot, creating battle scenes that look chaotic because they genuinely were. Tanks rumble through forests, across fields, and down narrow roads with zero shortcuts. Every explosion showers dirt onto the lens, making the viewer feel inches away from the action. The cast includes international stars like Yul Brynner and Orson Welles, but the true stars here are the armored machines and the crews guiding them through danger. There is no glossy finish, no polished edges. It is loud, rough, and full of tension. The Battle for Neretva embraces realism with fearless ambition, earning its place as one of the greatest large-scale war films ever made. This is tank cinema at its boldest. So what makes these films stand above the rest? It is not just the steel or the dust or the rumble of engines across a battered landscape. It is the way each story lets you feel the pressure of decisions made inside a moving fortress. These movies remind us that history is not quiet and it never moves in straight lines. Drop a comment, share your thoughts, and hit subscribe if you want more journeys through stories carved in iron.